Hello, everyone. Greg Harrelson here again with my co-host Abe Safa. Of course, bringing you the news of the week from Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV. Abe, it's been another exciting week. I think I say that all the time. It's like, something seems to happen every week in the marketplace that I'm excited to report on. And I tell you, I've been selling real estate locally in Myrtle Beach for nearly 25 years now. And so I've seen a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And I remember for many years, especially around that 2007, 8, 9, it's like as I was giving updates to the consumers, it seemed like, gosh, every time I was talking to them, I was sharing with them something that sharing them news that seemed to be more negative every week. It's like, okay, the property values just went down. Well, they went down again. But now it's the opposite. It seems like every week we've got good news, even though the last couple of weeks, for those that tune in frequently, they could see that, maybe some things have flattened out a little bit over the last couple of weeks. But for the most part, it's been going up and up and up. So I'm sure it's been an exciting week for you. And how's anything exciting go on for you and your business, Abe, this week?
Yeah, it's kind of, we've been doing this for a couple of months now, and I hope that we're not getting boring to your listeners out there, because it's just been good news after week, and we just keep saying the market's good, and frankly, it is. We're constantly looking for different data that can at least give us a sneak peek if things are about to change, and just not seeing anything out there that's showing any weakness. It's still strong.
Yes.
Give you one example. I put a unit in Pelican's Watch on the market just a few days ago. And because there's no inventory out there, as soon as it hits the market, boom, a ton of showings get scheduled and we get offer instantly. And then I get 2 more calls saying that they might be interested in making an offer. So, I mean, there's a lot of little pockets within the market right now where there's just no inventory.
Yeah. And that's a condo.
And that's a condo as well. So, I mean, homes are even hotter, right? So, again, I don't want it. This isn't a sales pitch to you people out there. For us, we're not getting on here requesting your business. We just want to let you know what the market is doing right now. And if there's any thoughts of selling, I mean, you've got to capitalize on what's happening in the market right now.
Yeah. One of the things that happened with me, it was, as a residential property, but put a property on the market that was really, the fair market value, according to, say, data, was probably, the property was probably worth somewhere around $220,000. But, the seller and I discussed it. There was no inventory on the market for a property in that price range, a residential home. So we ended up putting it a little bit above $230,000, got it sold for $230,000, actually, under contract, I should say. And now, unfortunately, the appraisal came out, and it came out to somewhere 220, I think it was 223, somewhere in that range. Now, some people could say, oh, gosh, well, that might be a problem. But the first point that I want to stress with you is that's what a seller's market looks like. Sometimes when you're in a seller's market, you can kind of stretch the price, and buyers are willing to pay. And they're willing to pay even a little bit more than a property will appraise for. Now, that doesn't always mean that the buyer can pay more than it will appraise for. Now, in this story, we were able to negotiate on behalf of the seller, and the buyer's willing to pay a little bit more. So that transaction looks like it's going to work out. But the point is, that's another sign of what a seller's market looks like. You put it on for maybe a little bit more than what the previous sales have been. We actually get an offer higher than what the previous sales have been. Then we get an appraisal. Sometimes the appraisals don't really support what we're trying to do. But if we've got a motivated buyer and they can bring a little bit more money as a down payment, then the bank will still allow the transaction to go through. So, those are just the types of things that we have to navigate through, in these types of markets. We anticipate when we're pushing price for our seller, we anticipate that we may have a second negotiation later on once the bank does the appraisal. So in all, that's good news. That means my sellers are getting more money, and I know that you're experiencing the same thing. So, there's some the inventory. I think there's a number that you're going to share with us, Abe, about inventory, and both of us were like, "Wow!" I think it was 33%. Can you share that bit of number before you go into like the residential and the condos, et cetera?
Yeah. So this is important for us to kind of point out from the normal numbers that we typically do. So we went back and looked at the August numbers because sometimes it takes a couple of weeks for the final numbers to actually come through. So looking at the final August numbers, single family homes, resales, inventory is down 36.1% compared to last year. That's huge. That's
36%
36%
lower
less inventory right now than there was last year for the month of August, going into September 1st.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, if you look at that graph of inventory, it's been going down month after month after month for quite a few years now. So we're not talking like last year was a high number and now we just dropped 36%. Yeah. We're talking about a 36% drop from already a low number. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you a peek as to how tight inventory is right now.
Yeah.
In the market.
Yeah. You know, one thing I wanted to say, you know, there's times in the market where sellers will come to me and they say, hey, Greg, you know, should I update my home? Like if I update my home, could I get a little bit more money? When we're in a seller's market like this and inventory is really low, there can be more value in doing things like that. Like, you know, if for instance, if you have a home and maybe there's a lot of carpet in the home and it's been there for a while, it's a little worn, and you're asking yourself, should I replace the carpet? You know, the answer, I can't just say yes, blank. I can't give a generalization. I can't generalize and just say yes automatically. I'd have to see it and talk to you about it a little bit more. But a lot of times we would say in the past, when the inventory is a little bit higher, we would say in the past that, hey, you know what? I tell you what, a lot of times the buyers like to be able to maybe take a concession on flooring and have the flooring done themselves so they can choose what they want. But what I find in today's market is that when somebody puts a little extra money in it, not overboard, but a little extra money, and it really, really looks good and the photography looks good, then those properties are selling fast and they're selling for more money. So sometimes you put $1 in. If you put the right dollar in, you may get more than $1 out, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you put $1 in and you only get 75 cents out. But I just wanted to bring that up. When inventory is low like this, some additional updates kind of yield some additional profit. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially right now, because you can't get people to do any work.
That's right.
Everybody's so busy. So homes that are just ready to move in, they are getting an extra premium than they would have. But you raised a very good point, because I get that question all the time. Hey, if I did some upgrades, can I get more money?
Yes.
Yes. In most cases, you can get more money. Okay, what Greg and I and more of the better agents in the market will do is they're going to look at, can you make more money? Mm-hmm. Right? Getting more money doesn't mean that you can make more money. Right? Yes. So you can do some upgrades. You're going to get a higher sales price. But what if you overspent on the upgrades? So it's important to actually talk to somebody that knows what they're doing, knows the market, before you actually go out and spend a bunch of money on doing some upgrades. But yes, in general terms right now, homes that are ready to move in, they're asking a premium and getting a premium right now because of the lack of options for people. Because keep in mind also, there's people that have been waiting for a home. That's right. Some of them are getting crunched on time right now, like they have to move real soon. So the more ready the home is, the more more leverage you have in getting a higher price. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This would apply to condos and anything. This is just, we're talking about, you know, the best condition we can be in, it usually pays off. But again, if there's people out there listening, thinking about selling, do not just rush to Home Depot and Lowe's and start investing a lot of money until you talk with a professional real estate agent, because that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to see what kind of ideas do you have for updates. And then we're going to estimate what we believe the value of those updates would be, meaning how it would raise the value of your home. And then we have to compare that to the cost of those updates. And we have to see, okay, if we put $5,000 in, are we going to get an additional $10,000 on sales price? Or if we put $5,000 in, are we only going to get an additional $5,000, but the house might have a better chance of selling?
And sell quicker.
Yeah, sell quicker. Or are we going to put $5,000 in, and we're only going to get $3,000 more on sales price? We want to make sure that we look at all of those scenarios, talk about that, and then help you make a good informed decision at that point.
Absolutely. So another number, so inventory down 36%, pendings are up 37%. So that gives you a peek view into what's going to happen over the next 45 days as these start to close. So we're going to see closings go up significantly for the month of September and October. Yeah.
Yeah, so year-over-year closings should spike in final numbers for September just because of the increase in pendings. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't you go through the rest of the numbers?
Yeah, so let's go over this real quick because I think this is important news to look at. So the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB, okay, last week said that the housing market index, the HMI, hit a record high. So they've been tracking this number for 35 years. It hit a score of 83. So what that number means is single family homes, how strong builders feel the market is right now for new construction single family homes. So the higher that number, the more they strongly feel. And it's also an indicator of what they think the next 6 months will look like for new construction homes and for buyers out there looking for new construction. So that hit a record high of 83. So the demand, that just tells us plain and simple, the demand is still there. People are buying homes. The market is still really strong for it to hit a record high number. I thought that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, that's. I mean, again, we don't want to bore you with such great news, but I tell you what, I'd rather give you great news on a weekly basis than negative news. But you know what, the reality is we're not going to choose just the good things. We're going to try to be transparent and authentic in everything that we share with you. So we just want to give you the current news. So that's a lot of confidence in the marketplace. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and then we look at another factor we look at is housing starts, which is the NAHB also looks at. So housing starts last month were up 4.1%, and permits, right, were up 6%. So again, just like pendings are peak view into the future, permits for new construction also a peak view into the future, thinking, okay, they're really looking, they're optimistic about the future. They're really optimistic about what's going to happen or what is happening with the housing market right now as far as new construction.
Wow, fantastic. Well, good. What else you got?
And one more piece of data before we dive into our local market numbers. Mortgage Bankers Association, MBA, shows mortgage applications for new home purchases increased 33% over a year ago. Mm-hmm. So again, it's all, I mean, I can't find any bad data to give you guys. Sorry. I'm looking for something negative to throw out there, but I just can't seem to find anything negative. Everything seems to be pointing in the right direction as far as housing in the real estate market. So
and it would make sense. It would make sense if pendings are going up, then obviously that many more people are buying properties, and so we should see that in mortgages also. So that makes a lot of sense. So, like all the numbers seem to be in correlation with each other.
Yeah, and the new construction developers are talking to the mortgage people, so they know. Okay, so if the demand is there on one side, it's going to match up there on the other side. Mm-hmm. All right. So anything else you want to go over before we jump into the local numbers?
No, let's go ahead and jump right in it.
Okay. So let's start with the single family homes. Again, over 50%. Last week, that was right below 50%. So 2775 pending out of 5513. This is all single family homes across the board, new construction and resale. Mm-hmm. So that just continued. It's a small uptick from last week. Not seeing anything dropping there. Looking at new construction, resale, 48 and change. Again, it's a small uptick from last week. Last week it was about 47%. So it's still right in line, still going strong. As soon as something closes, more homes are going pending. Let's look at new construction. So new construction homes, 53%. That's up more than 1% over last week. Last week it was 52 and change. Yeah. So again, still going strong.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that has to be looked at is what the inventory levels are. So sometimes there's a few ways that this number can move. Mm-hmm. The number can move with the same amount of inventory, but more are under contract, or the same amount of contracts and less inventory. Both of those would actually move that number. And inventory being so tight, I mean, I don't know how this number is going to shift.
That's a great point, Greg. So last week, you see that number 2427 on the market?
Yeah.
Last week, we were at 2407. Mm-hmm. And the pendings were 1252 last week and 1290 this week.
Yeah. So there was a few more pending. The percent pending, or the amount of properties going under pending status is trending higher or faster than the new listings are coming on the market.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And hence why that number goes up. I mean, that's it.
All right. So let's look at the condo market, because people are waiting for that to get weaker. And it's not.
Yeah.
1118 pending. Last week it was 1099. 3251 on the market. Last week it was 3253.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just not seeing that usual flow of inventory right now in the market that we typically see this time of year.
Yeah.
The summer is over. Most of the rental income is already received for these owners, but we're not seeing that heavy push to get the properties back on the market and get them sold.
I'll give you experience. Okay. I'll just share with you experience, 25 years of experience in real estate markets. What's interesting is when the news is really, really positive, everyone wants to everyone seems to be they hold their property. Okay. But when the news turns very negative, then everyone wants to get rid of their property. Now, if we look at it from a financial standpoint, the reality is people should sell on good news and buy on bad news. But you know what people do? People actually buy on good news and sell on bad news, which means they're always selling low, but they're always buying high because they're buying on good news. Oh, I'm so excited the market's going to go up and it's just going up forever. We got to buy one. So people buy on the good news. And then when there's bad news, they panic sell. Oh my gosh, we need to get rid of this. The market's going down, and they sell and they're down. And so the person who sells on good news usually sells at a higher price than the person who sells on bad news. The person who buys on good news typically pays a higher price than people that buy on bad news. So I just want to throw that out there because I think I think one reason why there's not more inventory coming on the market right now is people are like, well, gosh, you know what? Properties are going up in value so much. I think I'll just wait. I think I'll wait. I think I'll wait. I'll wait. And then something happens to the economy, foreclosures, short sales, something happens. And then all of a sudden, then we go from very little, from 2 months of inventory to 6 months of inventory in a 45 to 60 day period of time. And now the prices go down. So again, that's one of the reasons why we bring this information to you, is we just want to make sure that you're looking at everything, and then including your short-term and long-term plans, and making good financial decisions. That could mean selling, that could mean holding, that could mean buying. I can't judge that. That depends on your personal situation, and every buyer and seller has a unique situation. That's kind of why we're in business, is to help people navigate through the process and help them hit their targets. So, but I just thought I would share that. That was coming across my mind because you would think more people would be taking advantage of selling at a high price. But some of these people are sitting here saying, because they're saying it to me, I think we'll just hold. I think prices are going to continue to go up. Well, at some point, it turns. We don't know when, but that's the risk.
That's a great point. I mean, no different than the stock market, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
So let's look at the Oceanfront condo, right? Because this is the one that we would think we would have the biggest change in as we get into fall, and it's almost identical to last week's numbers. Mm-hmm. So last week it was 19.73% pending, 1961 this week. But last week on the market were 1541. This week is 1540, and last week was 304 pending, 302 pending this week. So not
much movement.
Almost identical numbers there. It's still holding strong. So back to what you were saying, how people are seeing prices going up and thinking, well, I'm not going to sell right now. Prices are going up. I can kind of make sense of that for single family homes, right? Because just because prices going up, that doesn't mean that your life changes and you have to make a move, right?
That's right.
If you're in your home and you're settled and you don't want to move, that's understandable. But when it comes to Oceanfront condos, for instance, okay, so we both sell a ton of condos, Greg. We've sold hundreds and hundreds of them on the Oceanfront. And we've, over the last few years, we've talked to a lot of sellers that have been in pain because they've got a negative cash flow, right? And waiting for values to get to a certain point or where they feel like they've peaked, and then they're going to cash out of this thing. Okay, so my personal opinion, and you can chime in whether you agree or disagree on this, I think this is the time to be getting out of these if it's been a negative cash flow for you. Now, if you own these free and clear and it's been positive cash flow and you're doing well and you have nowhere else to put the money, hey, that you're in a good position. You don't need to do anything. But anybody that's been in a negative cash flow and now you're actually starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel where you feel like you can actually walk away from this clean and not have to bring money to the table, this is the opportunity to be able to get out of these things and then move on to something else.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, I don't know how many people I still talk to on a weekly basis that the prices now are at a point where they could actually sell and pay off their mortgage that they took back in 2006. Where the last, for the last 10 years, they've been upside down from a value to mortgage standpoint. Now they're in a situation where they could actually sell and pay off their mortgage. And on top of that, it's a negative cash flow. So, if you're in a situation where you're now above water, where you could sell it and after all closing costs still pay off your mortgage, where maybe you weren't there 6-7 years ago, but now you're above water and you could eliminate negative cash flow, that might be something to consider.
Absolutely. And finally, let's look at the land. 16.8%. Last week it was 16.58, so just a tick above. 457 pending last week, 461 pending this week. Inventory about the same on the market.
Yeah, so I think we kind of stated that in the beginning. Things seem to be kind of leveling out. And by the way, when we say things were going up like this and now they're kind of level, that doesn't mean down is next. It just means that level is kind of it's normalizing. It's kind of it's a new normal, and then the future will dictate if that's going to trend up or it's going to trend down. So we have no prediction on really where that's going to go. We are paying attention to mortgage defaults, short sales, moratoriums on foreclosures and things like that, moratoriums on evictions for tenants. We're really studying that and keeping current with it, but nothing is really taking place that says that the market's going to go down. And I don't know that it'll go up, but I really don't see any relief in the area of inventory. That's the thing that is kind of like keeping that this market at a higher level. It's just there doesn't seem to be any big push to produce additional supply. And believe me, the national builders would love to produce the supply, but the challenge is the building cost and the supply chain. So they're a little bit limited to how much they can actually build, at any given time, or at least currently right now. So I think we're going to continue to see good numbers for a little while. We'll see what happens after the election and around the election. There could be a lot of arguments and a lot of bickering and distractions. So things might just kind of like be a little dormant around that time. And then who knows what will happen with the election. But I'm sure there's going to be 50% of the people are going to be happy. 50% of the people are going to be upset. And we'll see how that influences the market.
Yeah, you mentioned inventory a second ago and just gave me a thought. And I want to kind of prep people on this going forward. Like the numbers that we're going over can be a little bit deceiving. It's not a true picture overall what's happening in the market. And let me explain that. So it's very clear that whatever's hitting the market is selling, and we've got a very strong level of what's pending relative to what's on the market. Okay. What it doesn't show in those numbers is the number of transactions in the market, right? So you mentioned inventory getting tight. Okay. As inventory stays tight and a lot of these pendings close out and no new inventory, no relief is coming to the market, what we could see is a number of closed sales, number of homes sold could start to go down.
Yeah.
Right? Not just in this market, but you're going to see it around the country because a lot of markets are feeling the same squeeze that we're feeling right now. There's an inventory crisis. So what you're going to start hearing is news about, housing sales are down, right? Yes. So you're going to start hearing on the news, okay, less sales, less homes sold. That's not always an indicator that the housing market is getting weak. It could just be an indicator that there's just not enough inventory. So be careful what you start hearing on the news.
Yes.
And if you ever have any questions, anything, always feel free to reach out to one of us. I mean, we'll be more than glad to explain what's happening in our local market. But we could be in a very strong market still as far as how quickly homes are selling, what prices they're getting, but also see housing sales going down as far as number of transactions.
Yeah.
Just wanted people to make sure people.
Great. Great point. And let me add this to that. Okay. So I've been through times where the news said sales go down, are going down. Sales are on the decline in America. Okay. But in the past, the majority of the time that we've seen a dip in sales, it's because there's been a dip in demand. Okay, that the demand has slowed, so therefore there's less buyers willing to buy or wanting to buy. That would be a demand issue. Okay, a demand issue causing lower sales. What we're dealing with is a supply issue. That there could actually be the supply could be the blame of lower sales, not the demand. The supply, the demand can be there. We could have lines walking out of our, lined up out of our office of people that are qualified, ready to buy, cash in hand, approval letters in hand from their bank. But if there's nothing to buy, then they won't be able to buy. Therefore, that sale would not be calculated in sales for that month. So the unique part of this is that if we see a lower sales coming through the channels on news, it's most likely going to be caused because of supply, not because of demand. Now, in the future, it could be a demand issue, but right now it'll be a supply issue.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, Abe, thank you so much for bringing the data, and I enjoyed another great conversation with you, of course, with Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV. And if any of you want additional information, have questions, just want to talk about the real estate market, maybe talk about your position, your real estate holdings, either investment properties, primary. Maybe you're thinking, gosh, I'm thinking about retiring in 5 years. What should I do with my home? Should I buy investments? Should I sell my investments? Every bit of that's going to be unique to your goals and your situation. But we've been through thousands of those conversations with consumers, and would love to have conversations with you and just see if we can guide you in the right direction. So, Abe, thank you again for being here, and we'll catch up again next week.
Next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.